Color correctors are used to cancel out uneven undertones and neutralize your skin tone. But even after you tried on the color corrector, your under eye still looks ashy. Why is that? Here are the most common mistakes that we might be doing unknowingly that makes our under eyes look ashy even after applying a color corrector and a concealer. The first mistake is when you're not using the right color corrector. To demonstrate, I'm going to be using the NYX palette. A peach corrector is used to cancel out the blue undertones of your uneven skin tone. On my left side, I'm going to be starting with a lighter shade of peach and I'm going to apply it with a flat, fluffy brush. I'm using the peach corrector to cancel out the blue undertones in my dark circles and patches, and right off the bat, you can see it's super light for my skin tone. But on my right side, I'm going to be using a shade that's a tad deeper. As you can see, it's canceling out my blue undertones pretty well as compared to my left side. So everyone's skin tone is so different, which makes the blue undertones so different. It can range anywhere from a lighter blue to a deeper purple. So depending on your skin tone, it's important to choose the right color corrector. If you have fair skin tone, use a light peach corrector. If you have a medium skin tone, go for a medium peach corrector. If you have medium to deep tones, use an orange corrector. And if you have deeper skin tones, go for something that's orange-red. After blending this out, you can apply a concealer over it to even out your skin tone. Next, let's say that you chose the right shade of color corrector, but it still looks ashy. That's probably because you're blending your color corrector too much and shearing it down. When you keep on blending, the tools might absorb much of the product, leaving you with less coverage. Rather than using a sponge, I like to apply my color correctors with either a flat, fluffy or a concealer brush, and I only blend out the edges. That way it gives you complete coverage without shearing it down. Now let's say that you applied your color corrector with a brush and did not shear it down, and it gives you full coverage, but you still look ashy. So let's go ahead and apply the color corrector, and I'm going to blend it with my brush to give me full coverage. Next, I'm going in with a concealer and applying directly over the color corrector. The one that I'll be using is the Milani concealer in the shade 145 or warm beige. Let me go ahead and apply it on my left side, and I'm going to blend it out, and as you can see, it still doesn't give me the coverage and it looks ashy. That's because I did not wait for the products to completely dry down before I blended it out. So on my right side, the color corrector has settled down. It's taken its time to dry, and now I'm going with the concealer. I'm going to apply it and let it sit for about 45 seconds to a minute till it gets tacky before I blend it out. And as you can see, that has given me full coverage as compared to the products on the left side. Let's look at another situation where you can still get ashy even if you've waited for your color corrector and your concealer to dry down before you blended it out. I'm going to apply the color corrector first on both sides and let it sit for a minute before I blend it out. Now I'm applying the concealer on my left side. I'm using a concealer that's lighter than my skin tone. While lighter concealers are recommended to highlight your under eyes, they just don't perform when you have uneven skin tone or dark circles. That's because the lighter shades mix with the blue undertones to give you an ashy look. Instead, on my right side, I'm going to be using a concealer that's a true match to my skin tone, which is Milani in the shade warm beige. I'm going to let it sit for about a minute and let it get tacky before I blend it out. And as you can see, that has completely blended in and covered my dark circles as well as patches around my mouth. You can now layer your lighter concealer over this to highlight. Let's look at one more situation with the concealers. I'm going to be applying concealers that's a true match to my skin tone on both sides. On my left side, I'm going to blend it out, and as you can see, my dark circles are still peeking through, which means when I set my face, it's going to look ashy. And that's because I used a concealer that's too thin or sheer, and it did not give me the coverage that is required. While it's important to use a concealer that's a true match to your skin tone, it's also important to use a concealer that gives you good coverage. For that reason, on my right side, I'm going to be using a full coverage concealer. Again, I'm using the Milani concealer, shade 145 or warm beige, which is a true match to my skin tone. I'm going to wait for it to get a little bit tacky before I blend it out, and as you can see, it has given me full coverage. Lastly, let's say you followed all of these instructions, used a color corrector, let it dry, then used a full coverage concealer, let it dry and blended it out, but your face still looks ashy. That might be because you used the wrong setting powder. It might be too light or pure white. That's again going to bring out the blue-gray tones of your dark circles and look very ashy. Instead, try using a powder with a little bit of tint to it. I'm going to be using the Makeup Forever HD Skin Powder, and as you can see, this is a combination of 3 different powders, and when I twist at the bottom, it's going to combine the powders and give me something that's a closer match to my skin tone. I'm going to set with this on my right side and you can instantly see the difference. You can also use other powders with a tint. You can also use something with a peach undertone or a yellow undertone like banana powders. And those, my friends, are the most common reasons why your face can still look ashy even if you've followed every single step of color correcting and concealing. I hope this video was helpful, and stay tuned for an in-depth video on color correcting soon after this video. You'll find that in the end screen. And check out the description box for all the products that I used today along with links to my social media. Make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I love you guys so much, and I will see you soon with a brand new one. Bye guys.